So the flowers have been sitting in the water overnight. Probably not the ideal. The ideal would have been to get up first thing in the morning and go pick them, as opposed to leaving them in the water overnight, which is, it's not a big deal. They're still fragrant and they're still basically fresh. I'm just gonna take these petals off and keep going. I'll show you when I'm done. Have you ever seen a more gorgeous thing? I mean, this is amazing. You stick your face in it. These are not terribly fragrant, but they do have a lovely, subtle perfume. Not too subtle. But anyway, I have this. I'm gonna measure out maybe 3 cups. These I picked out the petals that weren't the best. A little too dry or brown or whatever. I'm gonna just let that dry for potpourri, or maybe I'll make some rose beads later. But anyway, I need to measure out 3 cups. I also wash these. I washed some of them. Alright, woo, there's an ant flying around in there. Alright, so I'm going to measure this out. You have to pack it down. One packed cup. See, there it goes. Alright. Wow, that's a cup. Amazing. Alright, so I'm gonna wash these. With 1 cup, and I'm gonna measure out 3. Alright, so what I'm noticing is that there are a lot of insects. Well, not a lot, just a few. I found a spider and like 3 ants and a caterpillar. So right now I'm just putting a little water in this pot, well, a lot of water, in order to just allow the insects to kind of float up to the top, because that's what was happening. They got wet and then the caterpillar emerged and the ants started running around like crazy, and what is that? I think that's a dead ant. And the spider flew out, so, but I think that might have been it, because I think most of the ants should have run out by now. Alright, I'm just gonna let that sit for a minute. Alright, I'm satisfied. I think that I think we got everybody. So draining this out. Putting the flowers back in, the rose petals. And then I measured out 2 cups of water, 2 cups of roses, 2 cups of water. Oh, and if you didn't know by now, I'm trying to make rose syrup. Actually, that was 3 cups of water. And this is 1 cup of honey. Honey is a little bit more condensed in sugar content than sugar. So I'm going to count a cup of honey as if it was like a cup and a half of sugar. And what? Alright, so the recipe that I chose calls for it calls for 4 cups of sugar, and I'm really not trying to do that. But I think I'm gonna bite the bullets because it is syrup after all, and just put in the 4 cups. Alright, so we're calling that a cup and a half, 2 cups and a half, 3 cups and a half, and this is a quarter measure. So 1, 2, so that's a half. So that's the 4 cups. There, I did it. It's done. Can't turn it back anymore. I don't like using a lot of sugar. Usually whenever I have like a recipe for like muffins or cake or cheesecake, whatever, I always reduce the sugar amount. Sometimes by half, and then it ends up not being as sweet as it, you know, it doesn't taste right. So, but I always reduce the amount by at least a third. That's usually good for me. If I, you know, most recipes make for my palate, most recipes, everything ends up like too sweet, too cloying. Alright, so you're supposed to stir a little bit until the sugar dissolves. Of course, we can't tell when that's happening. But, oh, my voice is giving out on me. But anyway, once it starts to boil for sure, you really shouldn't stir too much. Because when you stir, it makes crystals develop, and you don't want crystals to develop in your syrup. Alright, I'm just going to let that come to a boil and then cover it for a little while until it starts to boil. Okay, there it goes. Trying not to stir too much. Alright, so it's just going to boil for a few minutes. I'm still trying to decide if I should remove the petals or strain them out. I mean, leave the petals or strain them out. Because, I mean, I'm trying to make syrup, I'm not trying to make jam. But then, you know, all these petals are going to be sweetened and still delicious. I don't know, maybe. Let me think about that some more. So it's going to simmer for a little while. Maybe about 10-15 minutes. Alright, I'm noticing that there's some scum developing at the top, so I'm just skimming some of that crud out. Oh my goodness. I raised the temperature of the fire in order to allow the evaporation to continue a little more quickly. And I also want to be able to observe the bubbles as they pop. The faster they pop, the thinner the syrup. So, of course, conversely, the slower the pop, the thicker the syrup. So that's what I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see the difference between when it starts to really get thick. So I'll show you when it starts to get ready. Alright, can you see it? The bubbles are slowing down a little bit, and you can see that they're not popping as quickly. I don't really want it too much thicker than that, because if you make it too thick, then it just becomes a lump, basically becomes candy. I don't want candy, I want syrup. So I'm going to strain this now and shut off the fire. And let me bring it out a little bit. Alright, I got some sterilized jars. I have 2 sterilized jars. I don't anticipate needing much more than that. Anyway, let me get this jar out here. Alright, so there it is. Nice and hot still. They're gonna cool off. And when the tops, they're popped up now, when they become convex, I don't know which one, then you know that they're set. But anyway, I can't get over that color. I mean, look at how pretty. Man, I can't wait to taste it. Anyway, it's gonna cool off, and then I'll try some later.